Hello, everybody. My name is Sullivan, and I work for Golden Dragon Games. And today I'm going to walk you through how to build your first Marcher Empires at War list using New Recruit. So New Recruit is an online platform that you use for list construction for our game in particular, and for a bunch of other games. It's a really really good platform. It's well supported. We have a good relationship with the devs there, and they've, in the past helped us out with a lot of things as we've started to learn their software and get used to working within their system. So to get started, you'll go to the New Recruit website. You can just type in New Recruit on Google and it comes up, or you can use this URL right here. It'll prompt you to probably make a profile. You can do that if you want to save your list for the future, but I'm pretty sure that you're allowed to use it in offline mode where you just kind of use it without having your own profile. I'm not quite sure on that, but since I can't do it without deleting my account, I'm gonna have to just leave it as it is right now. So you should land on this home page on New Recruit where you'll see my games. Yours will be empty, unlike mine, but mine has a few game systems that I like to play. If you aren't on this tab when you first start open New Recruit, you can click over here. You might be on lists. Or you might be somewhere else. But you should just click this top left button up here that says home, and that will bring you back to your home page anytime that you're on this screen. Okay, so your screen probably doesn't have Marcher yet, but it's really easy to add it. All you have to do is you have this big plus. Oh, also worth noting, there is a New Recruit app if you're on iOS or Android. Your app will look a little bit different than this, but the basic systems function the same way. So hopefully you'll still find this video informative if you're not using the browser version or you're using the computer app or the iOS app instead. Anyways, as I was saying, if you see my games, you'll see this big green plus sign that says add more games. You're going to click that, which will bring up every single war game and other game that is supported on the New Recruit platform. As you can see, there are a ton of them. But luckily, there is a search bar. So you're just going to type in Marcher Empires at War. You're going to click that button. Mine's already checked, so I don't need to click it. And then you don't have to click anything else. You don't have to hit add from folder or add from GitHub. If you click it, it goes. You see it went away. And then if I click it again and it's checked, it gets it added on the background here. So you can just go ahead and click the X after you add it, and that will add the Marcher game system into it. Now, if you have multiple game systems on this, it's a little unintuitive at first. So, for example, if I click into Gaslands, you'll see now I am in the Gaslands rule set. So this is actually just hyperlinking me to the list page, and it's clicking Gaslands. But if I click Marcher, for example, then now I'm in the Marcher list page instead of in the Gaslands one. I can also click this drop down button and I can cycle between mine. As you can see, I have some lists for Middle Earth, and this is what it looks like once you add in some lists. But let's go ahead and click the drop down again and go back to Marcher, and we'll get started with creating our first list. Okay, so to create your first list, what you're going to do is you're going to go up here and you're going to click this button. It says Create List. You just hit the plus, and now we get prompted with this screen. So as you can see, there's this box that pops up. The first thing on the box says faction. It has a drop down menu. The next is list name, cost limits, munitions, supply, activations. So let's start with faction. So faction is where you select which faction you want to play in Marcher. Currently we have 6 factions. And we're going to assume, for the purposes of this video, that you have purchased the Battle of the Marne starter set. Because that's our first Marcher starter set that's coming out here in the next few months, and we're currently running a crowdfunding campaign. If you're watching this video from the future, that hopefully that crowdfunding campaign was a huge success, and you're already well aware of the starter set. But for now, we're going to go ahead and click in, and let's make a United States Army list, since that's one half of the starter set box. Okay, so once we select our army, we have to put a list name. We're going to name this USA Battle of the Marne, and that's going to be the name of our list. It just helps. It just displays your list name whenever you're looking at all your lists. Helps you to stay organized. Okay, so by default, the cost limit here is set to 1,000. Yours might say 2,000. Um, for the purposes of the game, so a 2,000 point list, or 2,000 munitions, as we call it in the game of Marcher, is basically the size of your entire army. So the standard size is 2,000, but if you're playing the starter set box, that starter set box was designed for games of 1,000 munitions. We recommend that you can change these munitions to like whatever game size you want, but we recommend that if you have a game size that's different from the standard size, then for every 500 munitions you add or subtract, you're also going to change the activation count. So if we had, for example, like a 500 munition list, 500, then we would only have 5 activations, right? But for this one, we're going to have 1,000 point list, and we're going to want to have 10 activations. And you can change this however you want, even if you don't want to follow our recommendation. You also see that it says supply and intel. This is if you want to, you're playing a different kind of game mode or something, and you want to start with more or less intel, depending on how you want to build your list. When you add platoons into the game, you'll add it. They will automatically add intel and supply, which these will adjust on their own. So we don't need to touch those. So we're just going to leave intel and supply alone because we want our platoons to generate our intel and supply. We don't want to set it ourselves. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click create list after we're done. So just to refresh, we got our faction. We named our list. We chose the size of our game, which is going to be 1,000 munitions, and we chose 10 activations because there's a 10 there, there's a 10 there. Okay, so we're going to click create list, and this brings us into a very confusing looking page. Um, so it's a little weird because at first all we see here is army specializations. Now, I know if you are on mobile, you will not see this part to the left that says platoon. You will instead have to hit a big blue plus sign that's on the bottom right corner that's not here, and then it will list platoon and army specialization just like this. And now if you're on the browser version, it's already there. So we can just look over to the left and we can see platoons and army specialization. Now, when you first come in here, army specialization on your left side is already opened up, and if we click into it here, yeah, it's just this big drop-down menu with a bunch of army specializations. Now, the way I like to build this is I like to save this step for last, because I don't really know what kind of list I want to build until after I've already built it. Now, if you want to start with an army specialization, you can click on the eyeball here, and it will tell you what each one does. And if you click on the army specialization, it will add it to your list. To delete it, you just hit the little trash can, and then it goes away. But let's save army specialization for last because I want to get into the meat and potatoes of list building first. So in order to actually start adding units into your list, what you have to do is you have to click on the Platoon tab, and it adds a little drop-down menu, just like the Army specialization. It also tells you what you get for each platoon. So if we add an infantry platoon, we'll get 1 supply and 1 intel. If we added a support platoon, we get 2 supply, and if we add a starborn air support platoon, we get 2 intel. Now, if you're on mobile, again, this is kind of hidden. Make sure to hit the blue plus, and then you should get the same platoon drop-down menu. Click on that, and then you'll have the same menu, and you could add in your platoons. So since we're working off of what's included in the Battle of the Marne starter set, I think that we should add an infantry platoon because there's a bunch of like infantry sort of units that are in that starter set. So we're going to click that first, and we're going to not worry about these other platoons. So in the game of Marcher, if depending on the size of your game, for every 500 munitions in your list, you're allowed to add a platoon. So since we are a 1,000 munition list, we are allowed to have 2 platoons in our army. In a standard size game, it's 2,000 munitions, which means we can have 4 platoons in our army. But right now, I think we should just start out with 1 platoon. And we can add more if we want to later. So we'll add an infantry platoon, and that will add this little box here, and it will say Army of the United States, and it will say infantry platoon. And then like, if we click this, there's no profiles or rules. We can edit the name of it if we want. But that's a advanced feature. We don't have to pay for the advanced feature. New Recruit's really nice because the advanced features are mostly just like quality of life stuff, but nothing that like will prevent you from like building as many armies as you want or changing your list, things like that. It's just kind of features to help out the devs since this is mostly a free program. All right, so now we have this list, and we have a couple of things we can do. So as you can see here, there's a command, and it has a big red exclamation point, and that's because your roster requires 1 selection of commander. And then the infantry platoon has a little red exclamation point because it requires 1 more selection from command as well. Okay, so these exclamation points that you can see here, if you click the one in the very top, it will list all of the things wrong with your list. We're not going to worry about it right now. Let's try to resolve some of these as we go. Okay, so let's start with command. So if we look over here at the command section, we'll see that we only have 2 options. We have the M80 Raccoon Armored Command Car and the Willy GPV Staff Car, neither of which come in the Battle of the Marne starter box. So kind of a quirky thing about New Recruit is that New Recruit is really nice because it will not let you put anything in your list that is not allowed. You'll get these red arrows. But one kind of problem with this is that it hides all of the options that you legally aren't allowed to take in your list. So right now it's not showing the infantry commander option because we don't have any infantry units in our list. So what we have to do is, instead of adding a commander at first, we got to go down here, and let's just close these other tabs right now because we're not worried about them. And we have to add a core infantry unit. So let's click on core infantry, and then I'll pull up this little tab. All right, so there's a little bit of information here. So as you can see right here, it says 126 munitions. That's how many points it's going to cost us. And then it says one activation per one unit. So we know that this is going to cost us 126 munitions and one of our 10 activations in our army. And this is a GI infantry squad. It's our only option. This is the only unit in the USA line that is core infantry. So if we want to view its profile, we can click the eyeball, but I think we want to add it into our list. So we're going to go ahead and put the plus, and as you can see, that added an infantry squad into our list over here. Now, part of the rules for list building in Marcher is that every platoon has to have at least 2 core infantry in the platoon to be considered a legal platoon for Marcher. So since we only have one option for core infantry, let's go ahead and just add a second core infantry just to fulfill that platoon requirement. Okay, so now that we've added these core infantry, we can go back into this command tab, and now you can see it unhid the infantry officer. So this was hidden at first, but we added an infantry squad, which is something that this officer can attach to. So now the officer is showing. So let's go ahead and add that infantry officer as well. All right, so we added that guy in, and we're already getting a little yellow error message. So this says roster requires one selection of nominate field commander. All right, so let's figure out how we can get rid of this. So if you look at your main list here inside of the platoon, you can see that the commander has this little red arrow. Or sorry, not red, it's the yellow arrow. So we can click into that, and now that brings up a menu to the right. So this is the upgrade list. Every single unit in the game, if you click into it, will have a big upgrade list like this. And you can see New Recruit's super helpful because that yellow exclamation mark from earlier is now sitting right next to Nominate Field Commander. So we know that this is something that we need to click. So if we click that, that will make this infantry officer into our field commander. So now he has the special rule Nominate Field Commander, and if you click the eyeball, it tells you what it does. So Nominate Field Commander says this unit is your field commander, which is the unit must have the highest officer rank in your army or be a hero unit. Now, your field commander is basically just a unit that is the leader of your entire force. So if you bring a whole bunch of platoons and you nominate a field commander, that field commander is the guy in charge of your whole army. It really just matters for some of the secondary objectives, or if you just want to like theme your army around like one particular character being your commander, you can nominate them as the field commander. Okay. So the other thing that Nominate Field Commander did is it turned that yellow exclamation mark into a red exclamation mark. So now we have a problem. So let's click here to see what's going on. So it says the infantry officer requires one selection of higher education. And if we look down here by higher education, oh, there's the red arrow. Okay, so now we have 3 options. So the cool thing about field commanders is that it gives you a free upgrade. So if we get rid of the field commander, you'll see that these upgrades down here, the higher educations cost 40 munitions on their own. But if we make him a field commander, now it's free. So your field commander gets a free upgrade just for the fact that he's the leader of your army, so he's super special. The USA has 3 options for higher education, and every faction has something similar to this, but they're named different things. Like for French, I'm pretty sure it's like ideological background or something like that. It's always themed around the army, but the important thing is that it's upgrades that are specific to commanders. Okay, so for the purposes of this list, I think that we should take the West Point graduate because it's very simple. So it's whenever a unit receives an order from this commander, it gains a name token. So we're going to go ahead and just click that because that's a pretty good upgrade to give our unit. And then we can click this X, and that will bring us out of the upgrade slots. So, things to know about command units. So, if we look at the eyeball here, this brings up the unit's entire stat block, which is super useful if you're playing the game, because you'll need to click this eyeball all the time to remember what all your unit stats are. There's hundreds of units in the game and almost countless upgrade options, so clicking this eyeball is going to be very important for you as you're building your list. So if we can look, it has these little rules down at the bottom that say categories. Now these dictate how the unit appears and what kind of rules that they follow. So this unit has the category attaché, and it also has this rule down here called designated leader. So if you have the rule designated leader, It's because you are in the attaché category. And what it says is that this model must be attached to non-command units that share a core keyword that are within the same platoon before the game starts. After the model is attached, it must be designated as the leader of the combined unit, and that the unit may have no more than one additional model attached to it in this way. Okay, so the commander units, like the infantry officers, are always going to have this rule. And this rule is also special because the attaché category, a nominate field commander, also makes him not count as an activation in our army. So even though we have this infantry officer, you can see up here at the top that we've only used 2 out of our 10 activations, and those 2 are coming from these 2 GI infantry squads. So this guy is basically not a unit in himself. Instead, he is a unit that is going to attach to a different unit so that they just become one unit. If we were, instead of taking an infantry officer, if we took like this raccoon command car instead, you'll see it gave us an error message because we're only allowed to have one commander. But if we were to take this raccoon instead, he actually is his own individual unit. It's a vehicle, so it is a unit. So that actually is going to count towards our activation limit because he doesn't attach to anything. All right, so we're going to get rid of that and keep that infantry officer. Now, there is a way for new recruit to actually display which unit your officer is attached to. So what we're going to do is we're going to customize an infantry squad to tailor him for this infantry officer. So let's click into this GI infantry squad. All right, and now we have a bunch of options we can choose from. But the first thing we want to do is we want to scroll all the way down and we want to click Designate Command Unit. So if we look at that, it says this unit must have a command attaché attached to it. If this unit has a troop or cavalry keyword and does not have a crude weapon or battlesuit keyword, its minimum model count may be reduced by 1. Okay, cool. So we're going to click Designated Command Unit, and that actually changes the name in New Recruit of what this squad is called. So it was called GI Infantry Squad, but we clicked that, and now it is Command GI Infantry Squad. So we know that's the squad that has the officer in it. So if we do any cool upgrades and stuff to it, it's easy for us to keep track on New Recruit because it has a different name from the rest of our units. All right, so let's make this unit a little bit beefier since we're adding a infantry officer into it. So as part of the Battle of the Marne starter set, you have the GI infantry sprues, but you also have something called a veteran sprue. And the veteran sprue is basically a way where you can customize a unit and make it into something else. So it changes like your gun options. You can change your like the unit status, all kinds of stuff. So we're going to say that we're going to take this command GI infantry squad and we're going to turn it into a veteran and we're going to give it a bunch of upgrades. So let's look down at the bottom. So you see one of the upgrades is actually just called veteran. You don't need to take this upgrade if you're using the veteran sprue to build your units, but you can. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and take it because what it does is it makes the unit lose 1 action from suppression tokens only if it has 2 suppression tokens. So it basically just makes the unit a little bit harder for the suppression tokens to pin down. So we're going to go ahead and take veteran, which is very nice. I think it gives you an additional upgrade as well. Yeah, as long as the unit leader is not destroyed, you get that. You get this upgrade. Okay, so we're going to make him a veteran. And we're also going to probably change his weapons. So if you look at this, each model in the unit is actually represented in the stat line. And this will look different on mobile, obviously, but if you are in the browser with me, you can see that the GI Staff Sergeant, we can see all of the weapon options that he has. So we can give him a sidearm and a main weapon, and these all have a munitions cost associated with them. So there's a default profile that every unit in the game has. Sometimes it's the cheapest gun, sometimes it's just whatever the most generic gun is. In this case, his default options are he takes his energy pistol and he takes a Thompson SMG. So I think that what we want to do is we actually want to upgrade his pistol to a plasma pistol because the plasma pistol has a special rule that we might want later on, the special rule slag. And you can look at all of these in more detail on your own time. But for now, let's go ahead and upgrade the Staff Sergeant's sidearm. So he has that. I think the Thompson's probably a good option for him. And if we scroll down, now we look at the GI Rifleman. And there's also this little tab that says, like, greater than or equal to 6, greater than or less than 9. This is the amount of GI Riflemen we have in the squad. If you want to look at the total amount you could have in the squad, you can look here at the top. So it says squad members 10 out of 12, which means we can actually have up to 12 guys inside of the squad. But yeah, right now we'll keep it at 9. And if we look at GI Riflemen, by default, they have the M1X1 Garand. I think we actually want to upgrade that to the A16 Assault Rifle. Give these guys a little bit more of a punch. The other option we have for infantry squads is adding in specialists. Now, specialists normally have a cap. In this case, it's 0 out of 2. And I think that we should actually add 2 specialists into this squad. So if we click the plus, it will add a specialist. And now we have 2 options. We can either hit the plus here, which will add 2 of the same specialists. So in this case, this specialist is equipped with the M18 Bear. And if we click the little tab here, we can change what weapon. So instead, let's give him a plasma rifle. And now both of these guys are equipped with that plasma rifle. But you don't have to have your specialist equipped with the same weapon. If instead of hitting this plus here, you instead hit the little square that has the plus, if I hover it over it, it says split off one. So we can click that. And now it has split these into 2 separate specialists. And now I can actually change this weapon. So we'll have one of them have a plasma gun, and we'll have the other one take a... let's do a flamethrower. That sounds fun. And as we're doing this, it's changing the munitions cost of the unit. And let's scroll down and let's see what else we can give these guys. So if we look down here, we could upgrade these with wool socks, which is just kind of a quality of life upgrade. It's only 1 munition. It's basically so you can hit like exactly 1,000 points in your list by just like giving them like these random like 1-point upgrades. They don't actually do anything. I think the description says your troops are nice and cozy and your list looks neat and tidy. It's just sort of a thing for those that are OCD like I am and really want their their munitions cost to be round numbers. We could give him a professional NCO, but I don't think we need to do that because he already has an officer equipped with him. That just gives him an extra order. Radio pack is more important if you're like taking an artillery list. Since we're USA, our faction ability already lets us order an infinite range, so the radio pack isn't really super useful on US models. And then we already went over the veteran upgrade. We also have the option to take a grenade. Now, grenades are special. It basically gives your infantry unit an additional weapon that they get to throw 1 instance of whenever they attack. So I think, yeah, let's go ahead and just give our guys some frag grenades to make them a little bit stronger. So as you can see, we added all those upgrades in, and now this infantry squad is a veteran command GI infantry squad because he has the veteran keyword and the command keyword. And he lists all of the weapons that he has equipped. And it tells us how many munitions he has. So he's 255 munitions, and if we compare that with the base stock GI infantry squad, which is 126 munitions, we know that this is already going to be a much better unit, just by the munition disparity. Okay, so let's do something else to make our unit a little bit more tanky. And this also has to do with what else is in the Battle of the Marne starter set. So, as you can see over here, there's some other options we can choose from in the blue. So there's something over here called Ox Infantry. So this has to do with a unit's core typing. So if we look at our GI Infantry squad and ignore this huge list of upgrades that we've given them, and we look over here into keywords, you can see that the keywords are listed in this order. So in this case, it says USA, which is the faction, core infantry. So core is the platoons that you're allowed to take it in, and the officers that are allowed to give them orders. Ox, Starborn, which is a subtype that the unit has, which means that you can take it in a platoon as an Ox type, and then Ox Mechanized, and then Troop. So this means that we can take him as a core infantry unit, and we can also take him in as an auxiliary unit and a Starborn or a Mechanized platoon. So if we look down here in the Ox Infantry section, you'll notice that the Badger Hardsuit is actually listed in this section. That's because if you look at the Badger's keywords, it is core infantry, Ox Starborn, Ox Support, Troop, Battlesuit. That's actually weird. That should say core mechanized, not core infantry. It's a little odd that it's listed there, but it's in this section. I just found a bug live in the recording. So we're just gonna pretend that that said core mechanized, and we're gonna go ahead and click the plus sign, and then we'll add him in as an auxiliary option. Now in new recruit and in Marcher in general, you're actually only allowed to have 2 auxiliary units and up to 4 core units in every platoon. So we have this 1 auxiliary unit, and if we wanted to add another Badger squad in there, that would be the limit. So if I try to add a third, now you see I'm over my limit, 3 of 2 auxiliary units, so I have to get rid of that third Badger suit unit. So we'll go ahead and add those 2 in. We can also add Badger suits as something called a specialist. So if we click over here into specialist infantry, you'll see you have a couple of options: flag bearers, heavy weapons, medics, badgers. So let's go ahead and add a flag bearer into the into the list because that'd be cool. And let's go ahead and add a Badger hardsuit element because they are versatile. So there is a difference between the specialist version of the Badger and the auxiliary infantry version of the Badger. So the Aux infantry version is a squad of Badgers. So there's actually 2 Badgers in this unit. And you can see that right here where it says 1X Badger Hardsuit Sergeant, 1X Badger Hardsuit, compared to up here where it just says 1X Badger Hardsuit. So the reason why this is because when we add something as a specialist, it gives it the attaché keyword. So if we look at this in the view mode and look at categories, it now has attaché. Whereas this one down here, if we view it, no longer has attaché because this is its own unit. So this Badger up here is not going to cost us one of our activations, whereas these guys down here are going to cost us activations because these are independent units. So the cool thing about Badger Suits is that if you take it as a specialist, you can actually attach it to units just like you can commanders. And that gives you a bunch of bonuses, because units that are attached together get to share all of their keywords. And since Badgers have these special rules, you're also going to get all of these special rules onto the unit that you attached it to, which is super cool. They also share all their core types and all their keywords, so it's going to get the battlesuit keyword, which will make it immune to suppression, and you can actually select the Badger to get hit by damage first instead of the infantry squad. So if you really want to keep a squad alive, you can attach a Badger suit to it. And we can actually show in New Recruit that there's a Badger unit attached to him. So when we click into the core infantry squad, oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. That's not true. My mistake. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, so if we click into this guy, he has the distributed element keyword, just like the other one, which at the start of the game, basically, you'll just take all of your specialists and you'll just get to equip them to whoever you want. Very nice thing to do. You can also, just as with everybody else, change his weapon profile. So if I wanted this guy to, instead of the axe and combat shield, if I wanted to have the M2, I can just click that, and now this guy has the M2 instead. And if we look at these Badger hard suits, I can actually change the weapons of each guy individually because they come up as separate guys. So this guy is the sergeant, and so if I want the sergeant to have the M2, I can still have this guy have the hard suit axe and the combat shield, which is super cool. So Badgers are pretty versatile, which makes them a really nice addition to the set. The flag bearer also comes in the set, and he gives you a bunch of special rules and is also an attaché. Now, rules wise, it's very important. So specialists, you can only equip one specialist to a squad because of the way designated leader works. So if you look at the distributed elements rule, or sorry, the designated leader rule on the commander, so we look at that, and it says that you can only attach one other model to a unit that has a commander. So since we put the commander on this infantry squad, we can't also put the flag bearer and the Badger. We can only choose one. So in this case, we'll probably end up attaching the Badger here, and we'll put the flag bearer on the other GI infantry squad. So we've gone through all of this, and we are at 710 supply out of 1,000 munitions. So we actually still have room in our list to add more stuff. So we're going to go into here to core infantry, and let's just add another GI infantry squad. Well, let's just add 2 more. That puts us at 962, which is a lot closer. We're also at 6 activations. Now we still have an error message popping up. And so if we click this, let's see. So it says roster requires 1 selection of army specialization. So our list is basically built now. So let's go ahead and go up here to army specialization. And it's over here on the left side, just like the platoons. And let's add one of these. So we're building a really infantry heavy list. I think that we should probably choose the 1st Infantry Division Big Red one. So if we click that, it gives us the Red Ball Express. And we get all of these special rules in addition to our faction bonus. And you can look at these in more detail in the faction pack, or just looking through the Marcher rules on New Recruit, because all of these are natively in New Recruit. You just have to click the eyeball just like everything else. There's also options on New Recruit to copy units. So if I want to click this button, it will duplicate the unit, and it will keep all of the same stats that I've already built. So if for some reason I wanted 2 of these like enormous veteran squads, I just have to click the duplicate unit button, and it adds it in. And now you see we're getting that error message again because now I have 5 out of my 4 maximum core infantry units. So make sure that you're just following the error messages, and your list should be perfect. Yeah, so if we look at this, our list is pretty much ready to go. We still have a few more munitions to spend, but I could go in and I could spend this on upgrades and change people's weapons around, whatever I want to do. But hopefully this video has given you everything you need to know to start playing Marcher. If you ever have any questions on list building or you find a bug like I did in this video, you can reach out to the devs on any of our social media. We're most active on our Discord, but if you post on our Facebook page or our Reddit or Instagram or whatever, we'll probably find it. If you just search for Golden Dragon Games or Marcher Empires at War, we make ourselves pretty accessible to the community, and we love hearing your feedback because it helps us make the game better every single time. And with that all out of the way, I just want to remind everybody, my name is Sullivan, and I work with Golden Dragon Games, and it's important that everybody just keeps marching on. Thank you so much.